Today we are going to know about the most daring prison escapes in history. Let's start the video. Picture 200 men digging 3 tunnels at once, underneath a prison specifically designed so digging tunnels was impossible. Yeah, they did it anyway. And one of those tunnels is about to become the most famous hole in the ground in military history. This is the story of the Great Escape. And no, the real version doesn't have Steve McQueen on a motorcycle. It's somehow even more ridiculous. World War II, 1943. Stalag Luft III, a German prisoner of war camp built for one purpose: keep Allied airmen from escaping. The engineers who designed it were smart. The soil was bright yellow sand sitting just under a thin layer of dark gray topsoil. Dig even a little, and you'd be basically waving a flag that says, "Escape tunnel here, sorry." Guard towers everywhere. Microphones buried in the ground to detect digging. Barracks raised off the ground so guards could see underneath them. So obviously, the prisoners' response was, let's dig 3 tunnels at once. A Royal Air Force officer named Roger Bushell came up with the plan, and honestly, the code names alone deserve an award. The tunnels were called Tom, Dick, and Harry, because nothing terrifies the enemy quite like sounding like your weekend golf buddies. The idea was simple on paper and insane in practice. If the Germans found 1 tunnel, there'd be 2 more still going. Spread the risk. Spread the sand. Spread the absolute audacity. Speaking of sand, that yellow sand was the real enemy here. You couldn't just dump it outside. It'd stick out against the gray dirt like a crime scene. So prisoners sewed secret pouches into their trousers, filled them with sand while strolling around the camp yard, and quietly let it trickle out as they walked. Picture 200 grown men casually walking in circles, slowly leaking sand out of their pants, and somehow not getting caught for over a year. That's not a heist movie plot. That's just Tuesday at Stalag Luft III. The tunnels themselves were absurdly ambitious. Shored up with wood ripped from bedboards, lit with stolen electrical wiring, ventilated using air pumps built out of old powdered milk cans. They even built a small railway system inside the tunnel. Actual carts on actual tracks to move sand and men through passages barely wider than a coffin. Some of these guys were literal engineers and pilots, and apparently being trapped in a POW camp just turned that talent toward building an underground subway system out of spite. Then came the bad luck. Tom was discovered by the Germans and destroyed. Dick became unusable when the planned exit point turned out to be exactly where the Germans decided to expand the camp, which is either terrible luck or the universe having a sense of humor. That left Harry. Harry kept going for months. In near total secrecy, in near total darkness, roughly 30 feet underground, dug almost entirely with hand tools, tin cans, and what can only be described as pure spite for the Third Reich. By March 1944, Harry was finished. Over 300 feet long, ending, in theory, just past the tree line outside the camp, hidden from guard towers. 200 men were in on the plan. The night of the escape, 76 of them made it through the tunnel into the open air, one after another in the freezing dark, fully expecting to vanish into the forest and disappear. Except, and this is the part that turns a heist into a comedy of errors, the tunnel came up about 10 feet short of the tree line. Right in open ground, in sight of a guard tower, at night in the snow. So instead of a clean escape into the woods, it became a slow, tense, one-at-a-time crawl across open ground, hoping nobody looked over at exactly the wrong moment. Eventually, somebody did look over at exactly the wrong moment. The escape was discovered partway through the night, with dozens of men still underground or still crossing that open patch of snow. Pure chaos. Guards scrambling. Prisoners scattering into the dark in every direction with nothing but forged papers, civilianish clothes, sewn from old uniforms, and absolutely no idea what was about to happen to them. Of the 76 who made it out, the vast majority were recaptured within days. Germany was, after all, a slightly difficult place to blend in if you were a British airman with no papers and questionable German. 3 men made it all the way to freedom. 3 out of 76. The math is brutal, but the attempt itself rattled the German high command so badly that Hitler personally ordered dozens of the recaptured men executed, a war crime that later became one of the central facts of the post-war tribunals. So the escape wasn't really a clean victory. It was costly, it was tragic for many of the men involved, and only a handful actually got away. But as a pure feat of human stubbornness, 200 men, 3 tunnels, a literal underground railway, Sand smuggled out one pant leg at a time for over a year. It remains one of the most audacious things anyone has ever organized from inside a cage. They didn't escape because they had a perfect plan. They escaped because they refused to accept that impossible was a real category. Tom failed. Dick failed. Harry got them out the door, even if the door opened 10 feet short of the forest. And honestly, that's still a better outcome than most office escape rooms. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to watch more.